Hello everyone, it is Caitlin, and today we are making 1830 sleeve supports. One set filled with wool and one with down. So let's get cutting. This is the Black Snail pattern that has all the 1830s underpinnings in it. I bought it years ago and I've never used it. I used a Laughing Moon pattern for my corset. I drafted my own pattern for my shift from the Workman's Guide. I've never used it, so I was happy to see it had sleeve puffs in it, so I'm actually attending later today a Zoom meeting where a bunch of us are going to get together and make them together, so yay. I'm going to be there kind of to support those who are making the caned version we made last time, link above to that video if you haven't seen it. But today we're going to work on two stuffed versions. I'm going to do one in wool and one in down to kind of see which one I like better, because I don't know, never done this before. So yeah, this is the pattern. I'm going to cut it out of white cotton. I've also seen originals in brown, so that's an option too. I just have tons and tons of white fabric because that's what usually is correct for this type of thing. So we're going to go ahead and cut it out. Oops, and I actually don't need it this tall because it's a printable pattern. I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I can always reprint it again if I need a bigger size eventually. So I'm going to need 4 of these because I need 2 actual plumpers for each set. And so this will give me one of each kind, a boned version, a cane, and then one was stuffed with wool and one stuffed with down. So then I can decide what I want to make after that. I think for my sheer dress, I think I'm going to make next, I believe I want the bone version just because it's so light. I think it'll be really good for summer. So I probably want to make that one. And then I'll have these two, of course, well, one of them's going to go into the last cotton dress we made. I don't know which one yet. And then the other one will just be there for whenever we make a new cotton dress. And whatever version I don't put into the cotton dress will just go into the closet for when I make a new dress. So most of this video is going to be voiceover because I'm going to do most of the sewing on the Zoom meeting. So I'm just going to, voice over for the rest of the sewing bit. So I guess we can go ahead and talk about what I think is going to happen with this project. So I do think I'm going to like the wool better because it's most likely going to be a lot cooler than the feathers. But I think the down's going to be lighter and therefore easier to kind of wear. So I think I'm going to like them both for different reasons. And then I'll just have to make the personal choice for each gown. Do I want light but warm or cool but a little heavier? That's what I think is going to happen. I have to bring more of these. But we shall see. Step number 1 is to put gathering threads in both the top and the bottoms of the big pieces, so the actual puff part. I did 2 rows of gathering stitches by hand on both the top and the bottom, of course on all 4 puffs. I did not do anything to the lining at the time, but once I had finished all my gathering bits, I put the lining and matched it up with the big piece and gathered the big piece to fit the lining, and after that it was just as simple as doing a back stitch all the way across on both the top and the bottom to make it extra secure. Particularly for the one that I was going to fill with down, I wanted to make sure my stitches were extra small, extra tight, and definitely really nice back stitches so the down didn't work its way out. Well, I wasn't as concerned with the wool one, simply because the wool tends to stick itself together, and I didn't think I was going to have as much of an issue with it finding its way through little cracks and crevices. But down can have that issue, so I definitely wanted to make sure my stitches were good with that one. I try to keep my seam allowances around 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, which is a bit smaller than the pattern called for, but it worked just fine. And here you can see Laura sitting on me while I'm having the Zoom meeting and also trying to get sewing done because she likes to be in the way. Plus there were other kitties on the Zoom meeting and she thinks it's fun to say hi. The next step was to turn them inside out, or right side out really, and after that I chose one side on each sleeve puff to do a back stitch right where it got poofy. And so I wanted a space where I could put the wool and the down in without it going too far down and just falling out the other side. I wanted to have it a barrier, but of course I couldn't do the other one yet because I hadn't stuffed it yet. So the wool roving came in, which means we get to stuff some sleeve puffs. They look a lot smaller than I thought they would, but I'm seeing some pictures online of people who made the same pattern up, and they look good when they're stuffed. So I'm wondering if it's just a stuffing issue. So I bought a lot of wool, a lot more wool than I thought I had bought. It's hard to guesstimate online when they say a pound of wool, and I'm like, how much, like, I want to know, like, how many buckets is that? Like, how many, I want to know quantity, not weight. I didn't need to know weight. So I bought 2 pounds, and I'm going to be stuffing, things for a very long time. I still don't think they're going to be as big as the caned version that we did, but that's fine. I mean, the caned version I'm going to keep in the silk dress, and maybe just some cotton dresses. We can use these. Yeah, they're really not as small as I was thinking they were going to be. I mean, they're really not heavy. They're still very light, which I was concerned about the stuffing, being too heavy. They really aren't. So now I get to sew that closed. Alright, I am finishing this up, so we got that sewn in. Normally I would just tuck them in and just keep the raw edges. It's an undergarment, no one's going to care. But this is already raveling, so I feel like I need to hide it. Just so it lasts. Not necessarily for looks, just because it lasts. Just for it to last. So I'm going to, I already sewed the interior seams. Now I'm going to sew the exterior ones. These are probably going to be done with a whip stitch. I did the others with a running stitch. Just want to make sure those raw edges aren't showing. But yeah, that's what the inside looks like. It just looks like a seam. So hopefully that'll all work. We'll try them on in a minute. I'm going to get this sewn together, fill up the other one, and just wait around basically until the down gets here. Should be an hour or two, I think. And then we can work on that. Then we can work on those. And I'm not sure how I want to show y'all. I don't know if I should get dressed and do like one sleeve wool and one sleeve down. And then talk about it, but then you wouldn't be able to see like what we actually made. So I haven't decided about that. There we are, puff number 1 done. So, one more puff, and then the wolf ones are done. The fun part's going to try to be telling these apart once they're stuffed. I guess I'll be able to tell the difference between like a wool and feathers. I should hope so. But yeah, there's a puff. It's smaller than the caned one, like I thought, but not terribly small. I think they'll be just fine for a cotton dress. So yeah, I think I'll go ahead and finish this up, and then I'll see you when the down gets in. And the goose down came in. So yes, I'm trying to stuff it. As far as the actual process of stuffing, I can already tell you I like wool better, because I can just barely reach my hand in here and then it just flies everywhere. The dogs have been sneezing for the last 3 minutes since I've started doing this, because there's all breathing goose down in. But it is really soft. It is very light. Not that the wool was really heavy, but it is light. And I don't know how much y'all can see it all flying around, but there go the dogs again. Oh my goodness. It's going to be all over my clothes. Okay. So there are different pros to wool. I think I'm going to like this when it's done. It is very, very light. It is squishier. than the wool, so it's going to mold to a shape better. There's got to be a more efficient way of doing this without getting stuff everywhere. There are feathers everywhere. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mom has weird hobbies, and sometimes those hobbies make us sneeze. Okay, well now, like half the goose down's on the floor. Okay. That's fun. It reminds me so much of fur, but it's actually worse than fur, which I didn't think was possible. I would just like to say, if you are not into having your house look like the cotton factories and BBC's North and South, I can't really suggest the down. But otherwise, so far so good. I got one of them stuffed at least. I'm going to go back and do a double running stitch. I'm going to go through once and go back through. And close it same as before. Yeah, I mean it's definitely, I think, lighter than the wool ones, and it holds the shape better. But oh my gosh, there's just flyaways and fuzzies everywhere. This bends easier than the wool does. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I will say I don't think I'll have trouble telling which one is which as far as the wool and the down goes, because the wool is definitely lumpier than this stuff is. The down tends to pull together easier than the wool. So the wool, it sticks together once you pull it apart. Like, it maintains its shape better. Whereas this is a little bit more loose. And it doesn't necessarily stick to each other. And there we are. A down puff. Yeah, they're very light. I guess I'll go do the other one. And try not to breathe too many of these feathers in while I do so. Last step is putting in the ties. So, interestingly, they did turn out different. So the shapes are even different, even though I used the exact same pattern. So this is the wool one and this is the down one. These tended to be wider, and these kind of, they shaped themselves more into a circle, which is interesting. But anyway, we're going to sew in some ties. I think I'm going to sew them one on either end here, and then maybe one on the bottom on the back. I cut my ties. These are just cotton twill, about 8 inches in length. And you can definitely see ties on originals. I don't know if it's 2. I can see at least 2 on most of them. I don't know if it's 3, 4. This is what made logical sense to me. And it's probably more personal preference as far as anything else. And so with these ties, I'm not going to put ties into the dresses themselves. Personally, haven't seen any 1830s dresses with ties. What I'm going to do is use the ties and tack them on to the arm's eye. So like I'm sewing them on here, I'm going to sew them into the dress on the other end, probably more like right here. I just wanted to have like extra just in case. Because ties, in addition to not finding ties on original dresses in the arm's eyes, that's going to make the arm's eye very bulky to have a bow or a knot there. And I don't necessarily need bulk right there. I need bulk further down. So I'm thinking this is going to be the best way just to tack them in. And that way they'll be more secure. I don't have to worry about a bow becoming undone or anything like that. But this is the last step. So as soon as I get all these tied in or sewn in, we can put them into an arm's eye. And last time we did sleeve supports, we did the caned ones. And I should put on my modern clothes so you can see the actual supports. But I'm thinking I might actually put these in. But I'm thinking I might actually put these into an arm's eye, and we'll look at them from that direction, like underneath an actual sleeve. I think it'd be interesting to see if there's any difference in poofing out a sleeve with the down or in the wool. I'll probably fill one arm's eye with the wool and one with the down. And here are the finished sleeve puffs. So they're poofy, very poofy. So I put I feel again. This is the down side, and this is the wool side. As far as differences, this side is definitely lighter, and also warmer. So my predictions were correct. I do feel it, the heat on I do feel the heat on my arm staying on this side as opposed to this side. Doesn't seem to be as warm. This side, for some reason, I think is bigger than this side, and I think it's just because the cotton itself is a little heavier and it's pushing down on the down a little bit more than it is on the wool. So I think I'm going to leave the wool ones in this gown, and then my next 1830s dress is going to be a semi-sheer, really light cotton, and I think the down ones are going to go great on that one, just because the fabric was just light and airy, and I think it needs a light and airy sleeve support. So overall successful. I do like both of them. Don't particularly have anything that I dislike about them. Right now they're just pinned in. I think I do need to put this one up just slightly, maybe about an inch or two, to keep it off my elbow. But other than that, I just pinned them in. So I just used the ties that we did. Hang on, I got the extras. Here it is. So I just used the ties and I just pinned it into the armscye of the sleeve using the ties. I am feeling the pin a little bit on the one on the elbow, but the ones in the armscye I put in really, really well. I was just having a hard time with the one in the elbow, just because I didn't feel like doing it for real because I wasn't sewing it in, and so I didn't weave it in and out as much, and I think it's just kind of poking me a little bit. But that's an easy fix. I'm going to sew them in. Now that I know, I think I am going to keep the wool ones in this particular gown, I can just sew them in. So I'll be doing that pretty soon. But yeah, they're definitely poofy. They feel very different than the caned version. They aren't necessarily they're not necessarily so much heavier as I thought they were going to be. They really aren't as cumbersome. I think the caned ones just came out very large too, which is great, for the 1830s and the high 1835, 1836 sleeve. I think it is the right size. I just think these are a little bit smaller and therefore not as cumbersome. And I do like how there's this area right here where right up against under my arm I don't have any poofiness, because there's a slight bit of, poofy on the caned version down there. So I can't like super put my arms that tight. It wasn't uncomfortable. Like it was a natural kind of holding my arms out like this, just because wherever my side hit the sleeves, that's where my arm set. It wasn't uncomfortable at all. It's a different feeling. This is more natural, I would say, than the caned version. But yeah, this is the other wool one, by the way. I do find it interesting that the wool ones, as I think I showed y'all earlier, and the down ones end up being different shapes, even though it's the exact same pattern and I cut them out at the exact same time. I guess it's just the way they were stuffed. It was interesting. But here's the other one. Like, look at that. This one ended up being very round, and this one just kind of like partially round. It's like a little pillow. And this one, the hole is smaller because I think I've stuffed it so much, whereas this one fits my arm better. So this one's probably a little bit more comfortable, the down one. It's lighter. I don't feel it except for the heat kind of staying on my arm a little bit, which isn't uncomfortable. Like, it's not an uncomfortable heat, and it's pretty warm today. I have the windows open because it's nice. But it's not uncomfortable. It's just I feel the heat staying on my arm differently in this one than in this one, which I think is what the weirdness is. I think it's just different. And once I have both arms the same, it won't be different and it'll be fine. So, yeah, overall, successful. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, sleeve puffs. I am glad we did this. I have so much more down in wool. So I think I'll probably stick more with these. I do have another silk dress that I might do another caned version. But as far as the cotton and the wool ones, I think we're going to stick as far as the cotton and the wool dresses, I think we're going to stick with these. So I have plenty of stuff to make plenty more sleeve puffs. But yeah, that was fun, and something else to get done. And now both dresses will have sleeve puffs. I don't have to constantly take out the sleeve puffs and put them in other dresses, which was time consuming and annoying and yeah, just not fun. So I am glad that they will all have their own sleeve puff now, which I think just makes sense, especially since you're sewing them in. There's feathers still. She's mad at me because I have the windows open and I won't let her outside. But she doesn't come back from when I do let her outside, she won't come back. So she's not allowed outside, and she knows it. Anyway, so I don't even remember where I was. Something about sleeve supports. Something about both dresses. All the dresses are going to now have their own, which is going to be easier and less time consuming and just overall nicer. So yes, sleeve supports. 2 different ways. So now I have 3 different versions of sleeve supports. I don't think I have a favorite necessarily. They're all good for different things. So the caned ones are very light, very airy. There's nothing like a pillow on my arm. So I think during the summer those are going to be nice. But I like the shape of these, and I think the down ones are really good for light dresses, maybe light silks, very light cottons. I think the wool ones are going to be better for wool dresses, and then quilting cottons, just because they're going to be able to support the weight more. But other than that, yay, more projects done. And thank you so much for joining me today as we made sleeve supports with different fillings. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I will see you in the next video. No, ma'am. Sorry. I know I'm mean. You gonna stop so I can fill? No. That's rude. Your cat's rude, lady. You just gonna take a nap? You don't care? Okay. Yeah, you're annoying. I'm talking about you. Go take a nap. Do you want me to pull some silk out? Yeah? Yeah, okay, I can pull some silk out. All you have to do is ask. Got lots of silk around here. You want taffeta or satin? Oh, now you don't have an opinion. Where are you going? Here, look, Laura. Come here. Here, kitty kitty. What? Thought I only had a yard of this. That's not a yard. Come here, honey. Big poopy dress. Big poopy dress. Get the silk. That's what Mommy made for you. Yeah, isn't that nice? Oh, okay.